Hey guys, so it's Michelle from Women Who Wow, and full disclosure, I am using quite the filter today, although it's not doing enough in my humble opinion, because I'd like it to do more. I have not put on a stitch of makeup today, so I'm having to use the filter to make sure that I am somewhat presentable for the people, right? The people of the Facebook, the people of the internet. And I do want to talk a little bit about overcoming objections. I want to share this video so more people see it. So I am just going to kind of ramble about objections for just a minute, because I've never been one to memorize like scripts about overcoming objections, right? Like I've never done it. I'm never going to like learn some languaging around, but what would you say you want more? Or, like I'm just not going to do that. It just doesn't feel right to me. If that feels right to you, like obviously no sweat. But for me, that's just never been the way I'm going to do it. So, but what I have noticed is that when I'm speaking from the heart, when my focus is on the person and what they stand to gain from whatever I'm selling versus like the amount of money that I stand to gain, I'm pretty effective at overcoming objections that are legitimate objections, right? So, but I do want to share with you a little bit of my of when I stop that, right? Like when I'm not going to overcome the objection, and I don't even want to try, right? So I'm just going to talk a little bit about that. I finally found the place to share this. So how do you know? And this came up on a members only training recently when we were discussing like, it is very clear that my Mima is not watching my live stream because she keeps calling. But anyways, so on a members only call earlier this week, like we were discussing how long to follow up with a prospect, right? And it just so happened that I had just wrapped a launch, right? Like I had just wrapped a launch for a higher level, like 101 private mentoring container. So it was fresh for me, right? Like anytime that you launch something or you are in a membership drive or a sales push, you're going to have people who have objections. So it was very fresh for me, and I was excited to talk with our members about it. And the question was like, we talked about some objections and stuff like that, but what really I want to talk about today is, when do I stop? Like, when do I no longer follow up with an objection, even if I love you, right? Like, even if you're like, you're my people, and I'm just not going to go there with you anymore for this particular program. And I'll tell you that there's two instances in which I just am done, right? So one is when somebody reveals themselves as someone who I don't really care to work with anyway, right? Like that's an obvious one. Like I say who, I say when, I say how much, right? So like when it's somebody that the who is not somebody that I'm really interested in, or is no longer interested in working with, then that's an easy one for me. I'm just gonna say, okay, great, perfect, thanks for letting me know, that kind of thing. But even when I love the person, right? Even when we have a long-term relationship business-wise, it's easy for me to know when I'm going to stop, when I'm just not going to address any objection. And that's when the objection clearly doesn't make sense, right? Like, in other words, it indicates that while they're saying this one objection, their no is coming from another place, it may be an emotional place or a fear place or whatever. And so tackling that objection, even if you do it reasonably, even if it's obvious, as I'm going to show you in this case, right? I'm going to show you how people used one particular objection, and I just at that point was like, oh, I'm not going to go further with them, even though I love them, because they're over here in this other space, and it's be very easy. I'm going to overcome their objection right now with you on this Facebook Live. But listen, it was irrational, right? So I want to talk about that. Like, I stop when you reveal yourself as somebody I no longer want to work with, but also when the objection just doesn't make common sense, because at that point I know that another part of the brain is taking over, which happens to all of us, right? Like, no sweat. So really quick example. So for the program that I just launched and filled +1, right? So I was going to do 6 people and then I did 10 and then somebody else revealed themselves. It's just the perfect fit. So now our 6-person program, now we have 11 in it. But here's the deal. I had 3 people who said that timing, right? Timing was the issue. Timing is why they were not going to be in this one-on-one private mentoring program with me. Now, keep this in mind. The only people who were invited to do this level work with me had spoken to me about their need for exactly what was in the program. So they acknowledged the need. We had discussed it one-on-one. They knew and know what they're losing by not having these systems in place, and they understand what they have to gain. So, and they were privately invited. It's not like an email went out about this. It was just private invites, right? But 3 people whom I know dearly and love and respect came back with a bad timing thing, right? And at that point, save 1, and then I did go back to her because it was such perfect timing. And then she said something else, and I'm like, oh, I get it. She's over here entirely. So 3 people came back with bad timing, and I was done at that point. It's not because I don't love and respect them, but this program has 0 timing component. None. 0 timing, right? Like there is no timing. So if you ask me, when are you going to hold the trainings? And my answer is, I don't know. They're going to be pre-recorded and sent out to you, right? So on your time. And the one-on-one time can be used whenever it fits your schedule. Now keep this in mind, right? So timing. Well, it's not scheduling, right? The timing is ripe in their business or they wouldn't have been invited. And there's no timing component to the program whatsoever except on your time, right? So whenever it works for you. So I'm thinking like, okay, well, timing seems odd, but here's this. This program contained the one-on-one component is the exact equivalent to 3 strategic strategy sessions with me, which I sell every month for $997 a piece. So 3 times $997 is almost $3,000. This program contained 3 of those, and they'd only pay $1,500 for the entire program, and they'd get the trainings for the funnels and systems that they need. And they use the one-on-one time whenever it fit them. Right? So they'd pay $1,500, they'd get $3,000. Some of these people are actually paying for these $997 sessions, but timing, right? And so when they said that, I was like, okay, I get it. It's not about, it's the other version of timing. It's like emotional or fear or overwhelmed sense of timing, not like a timing issue. So at that point, there's nothing that I could say more reasonable than the offer itself to address the fact that there is no timing to this program, and except their own specific custom created timing. So that's what I mean by when you have an objection that just no longer makes sense. When they're saying something that is feeling so true to them, but your actual offer combats it, you just have to let that go. You just have to say, okay, I got it, right? Like, I got it, no sweat, right? Like, you know, peace be with you, no sweat, right? So that's one of the reasons, or one of the ways that I know that I just have to stop with that objection, because the objection is coming from a place that anything you would say to overcome it, even though it's super reasonable and true, is not going to address the emotional part of their objection. So in those cases, like either you revealed yourself as someone I don't want to work with, or the objection is just not coming from a place that can be overcome with facts or figures, right? Like it just is not coming from that place. So in those cases, I really release those people with a blessing. Like it's not something that I feel bad about or angry about. It's just like I just release them with a blessing. I too have been so overwhelmed or so nervous or fearful or whatever that I've just had to say no to anything that comes my way. In fact, I used to call it pulling in my boundaries, like just making it to where, nothing but a few things came in. So I totally have been there, but you're not going to overcome that objection by saying, well, you do realize you'll pay double later on for the exact same stuff and you still wouldn't get the trainings that you need. doesn't matter, because the emotion in that moment is making that decision. So anyway, I hope that answers y'all's questions about that. And if you have specific objections that you wanted me to help them overcome, then I'm happy to do that. Just put them in the comments below or message me m.me/womenwhowow. I don't spend a lot of time trying to overcome objections. But I do know how to do that now. I kind of am like, hey, it's either a hell yes or a hell no, and it sounds like it's not a hell yes from you, so let's move on to, maybe next offer or something like that. So anyway, appreciate you guys, and I'm super excited about doing the work with those who said yes to my one-on-one private mentoring container. We are actually starting on Friday, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. I might do it again maybe in a couple months or whatever. But anyway, I'm just excited to be with you guys at Women Who Wow. I'm excited to be a woman entrepreneur today. I'm excited about all the opportunities that are right here for us to grab hold of. And I just love helping you grow your business. So if there's anything I can do for you, don't hesitate to reach out, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys.